Hey everyone, we're getting closer and closer to PAD Awareness Month, peripheral artery disease, meaning that poor circulation in your legs. So we're counting down, we're sharing some stories of people with PAD so that you can learn about the signs and symptoms and make sure that doctors don't discover it too late because 1 in 5 people over the age of 60 has it, 1 in 3 diabetics over the age of 50. So stay tuned for an amazingly inspirational story of Ginger and how she was able to walk her way to saving her legs. Christy, over to you.
Sponsored by The Way to My Heart Incorporated.
Welcome to the Heart of Innovation, 60 minutes that could save life and limb with new breakthrough ideas and innovation changing the healthcare landscape. Brought to you by Patient Advocacy Group, the Global PAD Association at padhelp.org, in partnership with Reflow Medical, the pulse of medical ingenuity. Here are your hosts for the Heart of Innovation, Emmy Award-winning journalist and founder of the Global PAD Association, Kym and Douglas, and interventional cardiologist and founder of Save My Piggies Health and Wellness, Dr. John Phillips.
Hey everyone, welcome to this show. We have an inspirational story ahead that she is going to talk about the power of walking as medicine. So many of us take walking for granted every single day, but it truly is medicine for people, especially with poor circulation in the legs, but also in the heart. If you have cardiovascular or any vascular disease, the great news is our bodies have these miracle natural bypasses that can dilate and grow like tree roots in search of water. There are clinical terms for that, but I'm just simplifying it to paint the picture for you on the power of walking, and not just any walking. It's literally just getting out there, pushing through any discomfort, and building what we call collateral vessels. And so Dr. John has the day off, or else he would be jumping in right now and getting really excited about this conversation because he calls himself a plumber. And if walking doesn't work, or if disease has advanced to a stage where the arteries are so blocked in the legs of the heart that you need to go in there and manually roto-rooter them, still walking is the best medicine, even post, to maintain those vessels open. So we have Ginger with us today. And I love this quote. I asked, I have a moment of inspiration. Actually, we're going to do this in honor of Dr. John, and then I'll read my quote, Ginger, and then we'll get to you and see what you think. Go ahead, Christy.
Dr. John Phillips, spectacular, vascular moment of inspiration.
I had to do that in honor of Dr. John. And Dr. John sometimes will look at the topic of the show and say, I am going to put it into Chat GPT or Claude and see if it kind of spins out a quote that's relatable. And the title of this show, we're going to call it just How Walking Saved My Legs. And I said, hey, Chat GPT, can you spin out a quote that relates to this? And Ginger, I'm curious what you think about this quote. Every step is a choice to take back your life. You can relate to that, can't you?
I really can. I 100% agree with that quote.
So take us back to the beginning of your journey. You have something called peripheral artery disease. And for those that are not familiar with it, it is poor circulation in the legs. The arteries in the legs get a little plugged up. Some of the risk factors may include history of smoking or diabetes or autoimmune conditions. It can even be just age related. And it's just that over time, the plaque builds up in those arteries, and for some, a little bit more than others, and it limits the flow to the foot. Most patients never get to a limb-threatening stage, but if we can catch it really early, we can actually prevent or maybe even stall progression of this disease, so you don't have to sit there and live with these debilitating cramps over time. Right, Ginger?
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. What was life like for you as just a normal individual before these leg cramps kind of started stopping you in your tracks?
I was actually always pretty active, hiking, riding my bike, all of that. I used to be pretty active. But
Yeah.
one day I woke up. I mean, this happened really suddenly for me. Um, I woke up and couldn't walk. Um, I couldn't walk to my mailbox. I had my husband take me to the emergency room. Um, the strange thing was I could not take any steps forward. I could walk backwards. I know this is silly, but this is how my story began. And I went to the emergency room at our local hospital here in Utah, and they put me on intravenous drugs for inflammation. That's how the whole thing started. Originally, they had thought it was my hip, so then I got referred to a doctor for a hip replacement, and it turns out I did have a bad hip, but that wasn't my only problem. So I was getting injections for my hip, and I was in therapy, just regular physical therapy for my hip, and nothing was working. I actually went back to the hip doctor and said, I can't walk. My problem is I cannot walk without all this pain. I can't, I can only walk a few steps, and then I'd have to stop and wait a little bit and walk again. So
Mm.
he is the one that actually caught the problem and sent me to get an ABI test. And when I did that, I found out in my left leg it was now this is a few years back, but as I recall, it was like 0.52, and in my right it was 0.64. So that started my process of going to a vascular surgeon, which I was referred to.
Okay, so I
So
want to bring people up to speed in terms of these tests. So you ended up, we hear this all the time that yes, someone might have a hip problem. They might have osteoarthritis in their hip. They might be edging closer to the need for a hip replacement. But we've had several patients that have reported to us that while they may have needed the hip replacement, that did not resolve the pain that was debilitating for them, the leg cramps that were incredibly debilitating. And that's disconcerting to go through a major procedure and then the months and months of rehab only to have it not resolve the initial pain that was really ailing you. So you ended up with your surgeon who said, "Hey, you know what? Actually, I don't think this is the source of the symptoms you are presenting to me. Go get what's called an ABI. It's an ankle brachial index, and it measures the differential of blood pressure between your arms and your legs, and it shows if you have any sort of blood flow limitation going to your feet. They place blood pressure cuffs on your arms and on your legs. And for her, it showed she had about 50% of the blood flow that is normal for an everyday person going to her feet, right?
yes, yes.
Okay. So coming up next, right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to hear she goes to a vascular surgeon. We're going to find out what he said, what the treatment options were for her. That's next, right here on KDOW. Don't go away.
Leg health can indicate.
Nice job, Ginger. So we're still live online, but we're not live on the radio. We're in a commercial break on the radio itself. Uh well, I guess I don't know, Joshua, should I change my background now in the middle of it or just leave it? It's probably kind of sucky to suddenly change my background in the middle of it. I had so much going on. I think I'm losing it, Ginger. Think I'm taking on too much. So segment 2 is about 9 minutes, 15 seconds. Where are you located, by the way? Well, I mean, you
I'm
don't have to
in
tell me exact. And where?
I'm in Utah.
Oh, you are in Utah. Okay, got
Yes.
it. I work with a doctor out of Salt Lake City who's an interventional cardiologist, I think.
Oh, my vascular surgeon is in
Salt Lake City.
is at the University of Utah.
Mm. Gotcha. Um, and so how long has it been since your diagnosis?
I would say probably 4 years. 4 years.
30
Wow.
seconds.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. And no procedures yet?
None. No, the first doctor I went to wanted to do angioplasty and stents.
Yeah.
And then
Interesting.
I went and got a second opinion, which took me like 3 months to get the other doctor.
Ugh, that must have been difficult. That's a challenging time to wait that long.
It was.
1220 KDOW.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Dr. John has the day off, but we have Ginger who is with us. She's sharing her story, and before the break, she was talking about how her symptoms started with some leg cramps, and they sent her to the hospital. It was debilitating for her, and they thought maybe it was her hip that was the problem. And the doctor said, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. While you might have some hip issues, maybe a little arthritis there, I think your symptoms might be something a little bit more than that. Center for an ABI test. We always suggest, especially if you're over 50 and you're having these issues, it's worth checking your vascular system as well to rule out any artery issues that you may have. He ended up sending her for what's called an ABI. That's the ankle brachial index, the blood pressure cuffs on the arms and the legs to measure the differential. And it turns out she had about 50% the normal blood flow going to her feet. And that's pretty significant. Ginger, do you have any of the risk factors that I talked about that lead to peripheral artery disease, or most people with peripheral artery disease?
Well, I was a long-term smoker.
Mm-hmm.
I quit as soon as I found out. And I also have high cholesterol and high blood pressure. So, and I'm also a sun worshiper. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but
If anything, that helps. You get a little vitamin D in you. Vitamin D
yeah,
is good
I
for
always
you.
and I had low vitamin D as well. So I actually had to get some prescription to increase my vitamin D levels.
And so when I'm curious, just taking a step back here, when you went into the hospital, what was it that they put in your arteries? Do you know if it was a heparin drip that maybe back then they might have, indicated that maybe there might have been some clotting potentially in your blood that they just didn't tell you about?
It was never, they were just treating my system symptoms at that time. So they didn't suggest anything vascular. They did not. And, I never heard of peripheral arterial disease before, ever, until I was diagnosed. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. You got to get the word out because I wasn't aware of anything like this before.
And so you're sitting there in the hospital, they're putting something you're not really sure into your bloodstream through an IV.
Right.
They're just saying you have some inflammation and we're just trying to reduce the inflammation. And were you feeling pretty good when you left?
No, I wasn't feeling great, but at least I could kind of walk a little bit with assistance from my husband.
Wow. And I wonder if you actually went back into your records to actually see what they wrote aside from inflammation. It sounds like when they put in an IV that maybe they tried to put in some clot busting drugs in there, but a lot of times what I hear from patients is they kind of talk around an ailment in terms they think you'll understand, but they don't actually state it. We even have several people on here, including Douglas, who heads up our P.A.D patient task force for the Global P.A.D Association. And the doctor never stated peripheral artery disease. He would talk around it saying, you have something going on with your arteries. You're a little plugged up. We got to do this stent procedure. We got to do this bypass procedure. But not once did they talk about his smoking, putting him on any medications, or that it was peripheral artery disease, which is really interesting. Not even in his records that he had peripheral artery disease. I'm curious, in your case, did they send you home with any medications at that point?
No, they did not. They did not. They just referred me to my primary care physician, who then got in touch with this hip spine specialist, okay, because that's what they were saying it was, my hip. And it was through the processing of the hip spine doctor I went to that ultimately referred me. But it was my persistence to keep saying, I cannot walk. I have pain in my ankles, in my calves primarily. And every time I walked, it would hurt so bad that it forced me to stop. I had to stop because it hurt so bad. So
Wow.
I didn't think that was my hip. I didn't think it was my hip. Okay. And I went probably 2 years. I ultimately did get a hip replacement, but I went 2 years thinking all my problems were my hip. I mean, to the point that, you know, I had such low back pain that I had my nerves burned in my back, ablations. And yeah, it wasn't until I went and got a second opinion with another doctor who really explained to me that it was peripheral arterial disease and set me up with a walking program.
Oh my goodness. So you ended up with some ablations in your back. You ended up with a hip replacement and you still couldn't walk. So you were what I was talking about in the first. You actually
Right.
did go through with the hip surgery
Right.
and you still couldn't walk.
Well, I did need the hip replacement because after I could walk with from my walking program, which I did, and I continued to walk, I was still having low back pain, really bad low back pain.
Okay. So that came later. The hip
Yes.
replacement came after your peripheral artery disease
Right.
diagnosis. It was
Right.
still correct that your orthopedic surgeon said, I'm not sure that what you're experiencing right now is 100% your hip. Let's get you to a vascular surgeon. So you go to the vascular surgeon, the
Mhm.
first one.
The first
And
one.
what did
And she put me on a medication called Celestisol. Well, it's called
Cilostazol or Pletal?
Plato, yeah, which I still take. Um, she put me on that, but had scheduled me for angioplasty and stenting. And I just got so worried. I mean, I was just so scared because I just couldn't believe that this was happening to me because I was always active. I just didn't understand it. Couldn't be right. So I actually, but I wanted to walk. I was in so much pain that I had scheduled the surgery. It just so happened that during that time, I had already, when I first saw the first vascular surgeon, and she told me what I had and the treatment for it, which was this surgery, I went and got a second opinion. Okay, so I was just waiting for the second referral. I had to wait almost 3 months for to see that doctor.
Wow.
So when I did go in and see that doctor, she spent so much time with me. It was probably over an hour. And my husband was with us, and we went through this whole process. She told me how our bodies have a natural ability to heal ourselves. And she said she could refer me to a walking program. We could try that before we got into surgeries. Because she said once you start the surgery, there's no turning back. That's what I was told. And she also said to me to, you know, that she increased my cholesterol medication because she said that's a big factor. And we had to get my blood pressure under control. And she also recommended, of course, to quit smoking. At that time, I wasn't smoking cigarettes, but I was vaping.
Mhm.
And she just threw out there, you know, do you know what's even in those vapes? And I said, no, I really don't. And she kind of just left it in my hands. She didn't say you need to quit. She just said, you know, maybe you want to think about that. So I did. And then I went and got non-nicotine vapes and did that for a little bit, but I ultimately quit. Like within 2 or 3 months. I had completely quit. And the walking program that she set out for me is really what changed my life. Because to be honest with you, Kym, the first time I tried to walk, and my husband will tell you, I'll never forget, it took me 37 minutes to walk around the block. And I had to stop and go for 37 minutes to get around the block. And I just really at that point wanted to give up. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. I'm never going to walk again. And the walking program, it was a 12-week walking program, and it was painful. I wanted to give up so many times, and but I kept with it. And by the time I left there, I could walk around the block. I can hike again. I can do all the things that I couldn't do. Um, and it really saved my life. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones, I feel, that, I'm not diabetic, and I had got some really good treatment and some good advice. I educated myself as much as I could. And, I think you really have to advocate for yourself.
You do.
You
And
really
coming up
do.
next, right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to find out. I mean, that takes some serious grit. It's debilitating pain with these leg cramps. So find out how she got through mentally next, right here on KDOW.
3 years ago, my symptoms.
Because that is, I mean, you're talking about, Ginger, 50% blood flow to your feet. You were indicated, like, if you look at the guidelines at 50%, you're kind of right there on that borderline where an insurance company would say, you know what, we could, you could literally go in there and be approved to just eke a little bit more blood flow so that we can relieve some of the pain and get you walking further and faster out of the gate. But for most people, and I really want to make sure that people understand this, that, if you're usually 0.6 to 1 is considered normal on the scale. If that's 100% blood flow, right? If you're at 0.5 or 0.6, you're at 50 or 60% blood flow going down to your feet. At that point, you kind of at 0.6, you could go into a walking program. 0.5, you're borderline critical limb ischemia, and you might be edging closer to being a toe step away from amputation. The moment you get a wound, the wound doesn't heal with lack of blood flow. But it's always worth, if you don't have a wound on your foot and the pain is not waking you up at night, it wasn't waking you up at night at that point, was it?
It was
No.
not.
And so it was considered lifestyle limiting. At that point, indications are for a walking program, a supervised exercise therapy program. And it's 3 months, 2 to 3 times a week, usually 36 to 72 sessions. And did you actually go to the facility, or was it remote?
No, I went to the facility.
Okay. And so you were actually one of those that you were a good girl and you practiced at home.
I did both. I'm fortunate that I had a gym at my work. So I would just walk as much as I could, all the time, as much as I could.
So many people would think it's counterintuitive, though. So
Right.
I'm curious, going back to that conversation and it being, counterintuitive, what was going through your mind? I mean, when you have it handed to you on a silver platter, hey, we'll go in and manually restore blood flow. Or you can suffer and suffer and suffer and push and suffer and push and then hope that it's going to work. And most of the time, actually, in situations like
30
yours,
seconds.
it really does make a difference. We see so many success stories like this, but how do you get someone to have that grit and to push through and see a light at the end of the tunnel? So that's where we want to kind of go with this. And we're going to come back right now.
Learn
more and explore our list of participating schools at
7 minutes.
KDOW.biz. 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Dr. John has the day off, but we have an incredibly special guest here with us. We have Ginger from Utah, who's with us sharing her story, generously and courageously sharing her story with us. I'm hearing her story for the very first time. She's in our support group on Facebook through the Global P.A.D. Association, P.A.D. Support Group. .org. It's the largest on the web. And she caught my eye because she was encouraging someone else on Facebook in our support group to just keep walking. And I was like, oh my God, this is such an inspirational story. We have to share it with so many others. And before the break, she was saying she went to one vascular surgeon who said, I could go in right now and I could manually restore blood flow to your legs, open up those vessels just a little bit more to give you just enough relief to get you walking further and faster. And she said, I don't know about that. I heard that just leads to a revolving door of procedures. It's not a matter of if it's going to block up again. It's a matter of when. And the whole goal of having any of these procedures in your legs is to give you that much more blood flow to get you walking and growing these collateral vessels. So she waits for a second opinion, thinking there's got to be something more. I'm a little nervous about these procedures from what I've heard. This other doctor spent the time and she talked about these collateral vessels, Ginger. And I'm curious, you were saying just how much of a struggle it was to get started with this program. What was going through your mind with each and every step? At any point, did you want to turn back and go, gosh, this procedure is being handed to me on a silver platter that seems easier? What kept you going?
Well, I am lucky that I have a supportive husband, supportive family, and supportive friends. And I was in denial is what it was. Okay. I was in complete denial, but when I went I thought, well, you know what? I have nothing to lose at this point. I am in so much pain. And when I went to my first walking program, the first day, they did some testing, like to see how far you could actually walk and all of that to get a baseline. And
They do what's
told
called
me
a 6-minute walking test.
well, I didn't make it 6 minutes for sure.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't even think I walked a full minute, to be honest with you. And they started me right away on the treadmill, and they told me it was going to be a long process. It was going to be painful, but they were there to encourage me. And I met some really nice people there as well. They weren't in there for the same thing. They had stents in their hearts and things like that. So it was kind of a different kind of group setting, but still, we were all on an individual plan. And, it really did. I was going, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week, and then walking on my own in between. And I really did start to see results pretty quickly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I really did. I mean, I could walk, I could walk to the end of the street. I put a mental thing in my brain, like, okay, I'm going to walk to this tree, and then I'm going to stop and see if I can walk to the next tree. And that's what I did, little steps at a time. Oh, and I actually went and bought one of those smart watches to monitor my steps, because I wanted to see how much walking I was doing. And once you start to see a little results, even if you can walk, an extra 30 seconds, it gives you hope. That's what gave me the incentive to keep going, to be honest with you, is like I was noticing improvement. So I didn't give up, and it made me feel like, oh, maybe this really will work. I'm going to try it. I'm going to go through the whole program, and see if I have improvement. And you know what? It really motivated me. I mean, I got to the point where I was walking all the time, just walking my dog, at 4:30 in the morning, bundling up in the winter to walk. I did this for 2 years, 2.5 years. And, the last time I went to see my vascular surgeon, which was a year ago, and she did my last ABI test, um, I think it was 84 in my left and 92 in my right. And I don't
Gosh,
even have to see her anymore. She told me our relationship was over. She said, she
that's
said,
music to your ears.
she told me that if I started having pains again, to sign up for the walking program again and start the process over. But it really changed my life because I'm walking all the time now. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just part of my routine now. I go to work early so I can walk. Um, I just walk all the time. I still walk with my dog at 4:30 in the morning, and my life is I want to say my life is normal. It's better than normal now. I thought that this was going to kill me. I really did. And I'm just so happy now with my life.
And we have Jacqueline that's coming in from YouTube, and she's asking what medications you were on. You mentioned the cilostazol or the Plital, which is a vasodilator.
Mhm.
What other medications, blood pressure medications, you're on a statin, anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it at this point. I know a
Right.
lot of people
Mhm.
I know when they hear the word statin, they cringe, but and there are a lot of people that say, well, my cholesterol is actually normal in a basic lipid panel. But it's statins are more than just cholesterol or lipid lowering. They're also they lower inflammation, which can
Mhm.
lead to further damage to your arteries. So it's still a good discussion to have with your doctor to determine what's right for you. But coming up next, right here on the Heart of Innovation, still kind of want to get to the heart of this mindset that she has, because it is counterintuitive for people when they hear that walking's the best medicine and they can't walk. So we're going to hear some encouragement for her coming up next right here on the Heart of Innovation, so don't go away. The first thing people are literally going to say is, I mean, I just have to go back to that moment where they're saying that walk in, and it has to go through your mind. I mean, it has to go through there where you're like, okay, wait a minute. Walking is the best medicine, but I'm already active and you're telling me to walk, but I was already walking when I got this and I was active when I got this. So I'm not quite understanding how this is going to help. So we can go there if you think it's worth it. It's just, I think for people, and I don't know, what Heinz is thinking. That's kind of an interesting direction to go with it. And I'm also curious if you know where the blockages are or where the narrowing is. If it's in your thigh, that and your knee, like that's the best place to grow collateral vessels.
That's exactly where mine was.
So you didn't have people with a history of smoking a lot of times, they end up with a significant narrowing in their aorta and their iliac arteries, which is in their lower abdomen, and their common femoral arteries, which that's in your sit spot. I call it your sit arteries. It's kind of in that bendy spot when you sit, and those and into the thigh.
Well, I did have it in my femoral arteries as well.
That's in your thigh. So was it
Yeah.
because that's your superficial femoral artery and
Okay.
your profunda that are in the thigh. Up higher would be the common femoral, and that's in your bendy spot.
You know what, Kim? I really don't know, to be honest with you.
So I'm thinking that if you were able to really significantly improve, I'm thinking that you had some pretty good narrowing in your thigh.
I mean,
If
that's
it's
where most of my problem, that's where most of my pain was, from my thigh down to my calves.
okay, so it wasn't really in your buttocks or
Oh, my buttocks hurt too.
okay, because that's more iliac
Okay,
arteries.
my buttocks hurt too. But like I said, a lot of my problem also, I had a hip problem as well. I just didn't really know if it was my hip or if it was P.A.D, okay? And I had my hip done after I was learning to walk with the walking program,
And
because
so
I
the
was
hip,
still having problems, but not the same problems. My hip problem actually affected more of my back. So the PAD was a claudication in my legs, which helped, which is why I had to take the walking program, which is why I had to stop walking, because I was in so much pain. It wasn't, they kept thinking it was
30
my hip,
seconds.
but it wasn't my hip.
okay. Um,
So I had a couple things going on.
okay. This is our last long segment. But it's so fun talking to you. I could talk to you for hours.
I just want people to know not to give up,
Officials have lifted the tsunami warning.
Yeah.
This is SRN News.
AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Dr. Phillips is off today, but we have our special guest, Ginger, who is sharing her story of incredible grit and perseverance with peripheral artery disease, that poor circulation that is in the legs. Walking is the best medicine. Our bodies literally are just like little miracles, and you can grow natural bypasses when your main arteries are blocked. But the key, especially with those blocked arteries in the legs, is that you need to walk, you need to build up the pressure in those small collateral vessels to get them to dilate, get them to expand, and then get them to realize that, hey, you know what? We need some blood flow down to our toes, and they grow like tree roots. And I'm simplifying it, but they do. They actually plug right back in. They grow, plug right back into the main artery below a blockage, and they feed blood flow from above to below. And that's what's happened with Ginger here. She had some significant narrowing, 50% blood flow down to her legs, 50 and 60% blood flow down to her legs, half of what a normal person would have. And I'm curious, Ginger, in knowing that you have like these 50% blockages, most people would say to the doctor, well, I don't see how walking is going to be the solution for this. You need to open up those arteries, because I'm already walking. I'm in pain. I was active before, and you're telling me that walking's the solution to this? Like, how is that possible? You had to have said, huh, what? Like that moment of questioning her to go, I don't know about this. I need a little convincing.
I really didn't believe her. I really didn't. And I really wanted to take the easy route and go get the surgery from the first vascular doctor. And I don't know why. I honestly don't know why I decided I'm going to give it a try. I think because, what I was at, a really good hospital. And she was a professor, and I trusted her judgment. And I thought, you know what do I really have to lose? I've already been in so much pain for so long. I'll just try it. I'll just try it and see if there's any improvement, because I always knew I could go back and get the surgery if it didn't work. And I did have a discussion with my husband, what he thought, and he was encouraging. And I said, what the heck? I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try it and see if I see any improvement. And like I said, it really, at a month's time, I was feeling so much better. I really was. It was baby steps. It really was. It was baby steps, but I really felt like this might work because I kept walking a little bit farther each time, a little bit farther each time with less pain. And I was then at that point determined that I'm going to finish the walking program and see where I am after that. I just knew I could go back and get the surgery if it didn't work in my mind. But you start to feel really encouraged when you start to see results, and it motivated me to just do more. I think that was the thing. There was a mindset. I did keep a journal, and I started putting in the journal how far I could walk. I had the special route around my house, and how far did I go without pain. First time it was like not even a minute. And then it became, a minute. And then it became a minute, 20 seconds. It was every single second longer was like I knew I was improving.
But I want people to understand that, there are many out there that might say, but you don't understand the debilitating nature of the pain that I'm in. It wasn't a breeze for you. I mean,
No,
your pain literally sent you to the hospital limping, and your husband had to help you out of the hospital. Can you describe, is there any analogy that you can give? Some say it's like a tourniquet wrapped around their leg and the worst Charlie horse they ever had.
it's a constant squeeze. I mean, the pain, I couldn't even walk to my mailbox, okay, without pain. And the pain is so bad that you're just forced to stop. You're just forced to stop. You can't walk if you wanted to go a little bit farther. You have to stop because the pain is so bad. It's like a constant squeezing in your calves. That's how it was for me. And I just couldn't take another step farther. But I was told that when you get to that point, see if you can force yourself to take another couple of steps, because that's when you will really build the collaterals you need. And that's what I was doing. And it was a slow process. It took me 2 years to get to where I am today. Um, and I'm telling you, I walked in the winter. I walked in the rain. I did everything I could because I was starting to see results and I wanted to keep doing it. I wanted to keep going. So I changed my life. Um, I mean, I was always active, but not as active as I am now.
You say that to get, when you have peripheral artery disease to that extent in that advanced stage, and that's a pretty significant stage of PAD, having only 50 to 60% blood flow to your legs. Um, at that point, do you feel as though, with that pain, that them telling you that you're not hurting yourself with that pain, did that make a difference for you, that you knew you weren't causing more damage when it hurt?
That's true. That's true because that was one of my biggest fears is like, am I hurting myself more?
Yeah.
And they told me no. The pain, they actually said in rehab, you're the only peripheral arterial disease is the only disease where we want you to feel pain while you're walking. That's how they put it to me. So some of the other people that had heart issues and stuff, they had to stop if they had any kind of pain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right. And they said, so you're in a different situation. We want you to get to that point where you have pain.
But initially, you were mentioning that you were in denial, and
Yeah.
we host a show on the weekdays called Collateral Nation with my co-host Kevin Thomas Morgan, who wrote a PAD training manual. He also has PAD. He's a pathologist, but at 80 something years old is competing in half Ironman competitions. And in the first chapter of his book, he talks about the key to getting yourself motivated is to first manage the grief of diagnosis. Can you talk a little bit about that in 1 minute or less before we go to break?
I spent a lot of time crying. I can still feel myself start to cry now. Um, because it just, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I may never walk again. Or when I looked at your website and I saw some of the people that really, really had some serious issues, and I saw some of their sores, and I thought, oh my God, I don't want to get to that point. I just don't want to get there. Um, so it is really hard to admit to yourself that you have this disease and how much it can really affect your life. But my message is to those that have it. Oh God, please don't give up on yourself. Just don't give up on yourself. And
believe in yourself, that you might not get to where I am, but you may have improvement in your life. We learn to live with this. And I am really a fortunate success story. I really am. I believe that I am. I still go back and look at your site when I really wanted to stop looking at it because I thought it doesn't apply to me anymore. But I am on that site to give others hope that just keep walking one step at a time, one day at a time, and don't give up.
And coming up next, right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to hear more from Ginger. We so appreciate your courage and being here and your inspiration. And we're going to hear some final thoughts next, right here on KDOW. Don't go away. And I'm so glad that you are there. I'm so glad that you're willing to share. And there are different people that are in different stages of PAD, and so many end up in an advanced stage. They're and they come at us, and I know it's hard to see when they are, but when you can come in and you can say, hey, just even if you do have a wound, move your feet, lay in bed, move those feet, move those toes, try as much as you can. When Douglas, our friend here, was in the hospital, he put towels on the floor and was moving them back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, picking up a towel off the floor, wiggling his toes, doing some pushing the accelerator button and pulling it back. You just got to keep moving, moving, moving. And like today, it was disconcerting, to hear that someone was not as fortunate as you to get the diagnosis, soon enough until he went in. Anything can happen during these procedures, right? They're not perfect yet. We don't want to discourage someone with a wound on their foot and rest pain that's waking them up at night to not have a procedure. You need one, really, at that point. You're edging close. But if you can protect your feet and you can just grin and bear it and get through, if you can delay a procedure at all, I think it's really encouraging, but it's really no fun. And that's kind of what I want you to kind of get to the point of here. Like, reiterate, it's no fun. And if you don't have those wounds and you don't have that rest pain, yeah, it becomes a full-time job. Right. And so we only have 3 minutes, 5 seconds here. Maybe we can encourage people to join the Great Circulation Challenge. Did you join, Ginger?
30
I
seconds.
did not. I haven't yet. No.
The Great Circulation Challenge. Start your own Utah team and get people to follow you and walk with you over the month of there and compete against our group.
Okay.
It'd be fun. Just go in the group and say, I know Kym has this one, but join mine.
Yeah.
66558.
And then just put Team Ginger or Team Utah.
1220 KDOW. Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Inspiring story from Ginger. Ginger, so many people, when they end up having pain when they walk, they start slowing down. And so then they don't think that there's anything wrong because they've slowed down. They don't have the cramp anymore. What is your message to those people that are just compensating for the pain versus pushing through it and getting that diagnosis?
Well, I think you have to just keep going. You can't give up. I did that before I was diagnosed. I'd be walking and I'd have some pain and I'd like stop and then do something else, not knowing what PAD was. I honestly, I had no idea that I had this, and I probably had it for years before I was diagnosed. I think it's important that you get second opinion. I think it's important to educate yourself as much as you can. And don't give up. I mean, you just have to walk through the pain if you can. And just know that each step you take is helping you go a little bit further each time. You have to walk, and you have to get your mind going in the right direction, that it will help you. But you have to be consistent in your walking. You can't just decide to do it periodically. You have to dedicate yourself and the time it takes to get those collaterals going.
You were saying in the beginning that it took you 37 minutes to make it around
The
just your
block.
block.
It did.
And so it's just step by step. And you had your husband with you, right? As support. What did he say as you were doing this? Just keep going, or was there anything inspirational in his words, or was it just him being there?
It was just him being there. It really was. He went to the doctors with me. He participated. Um, he listened to me, all the crying I did, all the pain he knew I was going through, not just physically, but mentally, because I was in denial for so long. But he also shared in my success, because like I said, I kept a journal of the time. I did the same route for the longest time till I could get around the block without having to stop at all. That was the biggest achievement, because when it took me 37 minutes the first time, it was stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. But the first time I went around that whole block, and I think it took me over 5 minutes. I mean, I jumped for joy. I mean, I was just so excited.
We celebrate with you. Thank you, Ginger, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You've been listening.
Amazing, Ginger. Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, John, I mean, you couldn't help. You actually were able to jump for joy.
Yeah, I was. I was. I'll tell you what, I don't take my health for granted anymore.
And how are you feeling? I mean, now, I mean, I saw your post. This is what triggered me. And I feel like there's always a divine intervention, and we had a different show plan for today. And then I saw your message, and I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to Ginger. I just need to talk to you. And I feel like it was just meant to be, that there are people that are meant to hear this right here and right now. And it sounds like you're no longer in that place. You're like, I've persevered with PAD. I'm good.
Yeah, but it's still there in the back of my mind, and that's what keeps me going. Honestly, I've changed my whole life. I'm walking constantly. I don't park close to the store. I park away from the store. I walk to Walmart, which is almost a mile from my house, to pick up small items. I don't get in my car and drive anymore. I'm just trying to keep it going. I'm obsessed with walking now. It's so silly. It really is, but I'm obsessed with it.
Where do you remember, like, that inflection point, or that tipping point when it went from here's a struggle and suddenly I love this. Like, I crave it. I mean, do you see it as being like, you used to crave a cigarette, but now you're craving something healthy. You're craving getting out and walking.
That's true. It's so true. It really is. Yeah, I just feel better in life. I mean, my life is so much better now, in all respects, because I've made these changes that I have made. I'm not smoking. I'm not coughing all the time, having all the phlegm. I'm I'm just happy. I feel better. I mean, I think I look better. I've lost weight. Um, all of the things that just naturally happen when you start taking better care of yourself.
And Heinz has a question. We have our live in studio audience. While you're on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel so more people can actually hear this story. The further that we can get this story out there, the more people that we're going to end up inspiring to walk, 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 walk to better health. Heinz, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, it's more of comments. What Ginger said the whole hour, you know, I can reinforce that because it worked for me. The only thing is, Ginger, I had procedures, but the doctors, and I had two interventional cardiologists, they both said for the procedures, you don't have to get the procedures. There's other ways around that, but I got them anyway. Um, but that walking, what you said about the pain, I remember getting that pain too. And yeah, a couple weeks later, walked a little further before I had to stop. So pretty much exactly what you went through, I went through. My stent clogged up a couple of years ago, so it's clogged up. But the doctor said, "Hey, you're walking." I get mild claudication, so continue to walk, and hopefully we don't have to do any further procedures. So yeah, just continue to walk, like you said. And I'm OCD about walking every day,
That's exactly how I am.
so I completely understand. Thanks for your story.
Oh, you're welcome. I just hope it helps some other people realize not to give up. I mean, don't give up. This disease sucks. I mean, it sucks. It sucks for me. I really am one of the luckier ones because it didn't get to the point where it was so advanced. Like some of the people with diabetes have and stuff like that. But it was painful nonetheless. And yeah, we all have our own journey in this disease. And but the biggest thing I would say is, don't give up and just keep walking, little steps at a time.
And it is that, Heidi, bring up a really good point that I brought up earlier, that the reason that you have a procedure, a manual procedure to open up your arteries, is if you have a wound that is not healing, and or you have rest pain that is waking you up at night and you have to dangle your legs over the side of the bed or get up and start pacing. That's typically when someone's describing a pain that causes them to do those things. That's when I say, okay, let's see what an advanced skilled limb salvage specialist might have to offer you. And especially if there's a wound, your wound is not going to heal if it's a vascular issue and there's no oxygen getting to it. So I want to make sure for those people who are listening to understand that that is considered critical limb threatening ischemia. It could also be acute limb ischemia if your foot's suddenly gone cold. You do need to make sure to seek urgent care. Now, if you are in what's considered the intermittent claudication stage, that means you start walking, you get a cramp, you rest, it feels better. Walking is the best medicine. If you end up in what's considered lifestyle limiting claudication, meaning you you walk in the supermarket and you literally double over in pain. That's about where you were. You couldn't even make it to the mailbox. Some people end up, we've had a few mail carriers that couldn't even do their jobs because of the debilitating leg cramps. It affected their job. They couldn't go to work. Some who were caregivers couldn't do their daily chores, handle caring for a differently abled child or a very sick partner or something like that. And if they didn't get a procedure to help them with their daily activities, then it was going to be a problem. But if you have lifestyle limiting claudication, such as in Ginger's case, where she could find the time, she made the time, it wasn't impacting her job, it wasn't impacting her caregiving duties, and she would just muster up that grit and do it. That is literally the first frontline treatment for PAD. It is the most durable for those with the atherosclerosis, that plaque buildup in those arteries, right, Ginger?
That's right. That's right.
And that's really where you were. We do have some people that end up with clotting events, and that might be different. We always say this disease presents differently in different people, and you do need to make sure with your doctor what presentation of disease you have. Is this a long-term building up of plaque of rock hard calcium, or is this an acute onset of clot that's caused by heart valve issues, AFib, maybe a cancer that's hasn't been diagnosed? I'm just talking to someone online today who ended up with a clotting event because of lung cancer. We've seen that quite a number of times before. We've seen people end up with a clotting event due to cancer treatments. We've seen people have clotting events due to an aneurysm. So you need to understand your presentation of disease and find a doctor that will have the discussion with you to determine what treatment option is best for you. But you do need to ask the question of the doctor to say, hey, do you think that a walking program will work for me, especially if you're in the earlier stages of intermittent claudication to lifestyle limiting claudication? Because it is frontline, and we're seeing more and more insurance companies that will say, unless you try a walking program first, we're not going to pay for your treatment. And so you really do need to make sure that you are doing that walking program, because even if you do get a procedure, if you aren't in the habit of walking, that's just going to block right back up. And the whole goal in having these procedures is to give you enough blood flow to heal that wound, to help you get some sleep at night, and to help you walk further and faster to grow those collateral vessels. Because as Heinz just said, it's not a matter of if that's going to block up again, it's a matter of when. And I probably, Ginger, in hearing Heinz's story, that's exactly kind of what you feared, which was you didn't want to start the revolving door.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
But for Heinz, you got into the habit, right, of walking. So even though it blocked up, I'm assuming you had a little bit of a setback there where it was like, whoa, wait a minute, we're blocked back up again. But you're already in the habit of walking, right? So you're like, well, let's see if I can grow even more collateral vessels so that I don't need that opened up.
Exactly. When the first stents clogged up, I was in a lot of pain, and I had to hang my right leg out off the bed too for a while. I couldn't get comfortable sleeping, but eventually through the walking, and I knew I was going to see my new doctor, and that they had planned to go in again to do whatever. I wasn't positive what they were going to do, but to do whatever. And eventually through the walking, before I ever saw him, I was able to walk 3 miles, and yeah, I had pain, but I didn't have to stop anymore. So it worked, so that's why they said maybe you don't need to get the procedure after what they heard. But there was a while there I had to hang my leg off the bed, and
So you
I was
even
yeah, that one stent just totally got occluded and messed me up. And I was walking already then, but I just forced it even more with the walking till I had pain. I got to the point where I was limping when I was before I stopped, and that's a bad thing to do too, is starting to limp. That's how painful it was. But eventually I didn't have to limp. I didn't have to stop. So exactly what Ginger said, but there was tough times there for a short while.
But you did have the conversation. I think is important for everyone to know that this isn't something that you make the decision alone, that you need to make sure from your doctor that you're not hurting yourself. And for the most part, as Ginger said earlier, that when it comes to peripheral artery disease, for the most part, that pain is when you're telling your body, hey, dude, or dudette, I need some blood flow here, build those collateral vessels. And you didn't end up, even with that pain. I can't believe that you went from dangling your foot over the side of the bed and able to push through I'm sure your doctor was like, well, I mean, come on, Heinz, you know, you have to be a real warrior to get through that, but you're not hurting yourself. So if you want to keep going, keep going. Let's see if it works.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm
Mhm.
I don't know how you do it for both of you. Literally, how do you muster up that grit? I mean, do you liken it to, you know, those bodybuilders that are in there and you're watching them, their whole face is just crunching up as they're on their final rep and just trying to push that weight up above their heads, and it's everything they have to do that. Do you kind of liken this experience to that? Because that's, I don't know if you've ever been with a trainer and you're on your third set of bicep curls and you feel like your arm's going to break off on number 12 in the final set, and you're just like, I'm not going to get to 15, and the trainer's just like, just give me one more. You're like, no, it hurts, it burns, my arm is going to like snap, and they're like, no, just give me one more, and you're like, ugh, with everything I've got. Would you liken it to that, or is this
Sort of. I mean, as Ginger said earlier, she knew where she was going to stop, and then she went a few steps further each day or every couple of days. And that's how I was. I saw the same thing. I knew where I was going to stop. I got my cell phone out and I started reading news on the cell phone. Those 3 minutes I rested and started walking again. And eventually it was, instead of 7 minutes where I stopped between 6 and 7 minutes, it was like 8 and 9 minutes, and then eventually 9 to 10 minutes. And it was a slow progression, but I wanted to get through this. It was a total pain. One added thing that Ginger, I'm sure, has that I also have, we live in high altitude too, so that's less oxygen. So you're trying even harder,
That's
So
a good point. Good point.
yeah.
Oh, I just wonder how, like, with your mindset, how you're, I mean, it's just, you could argue, well, it's what you had to do, but we still have people that just say the pain is just too much. I just I can't do it. I can't even get motivated to walk because I don't look forward to that pain. I have a low pain tolerance. I just can't do it.
I
How
really,
can
I
you
really,
inspire?
I really can't even say why I decided to do the walking program, because it would have been so much easier to just go ahead and get the procedures. Um, I guess it was just something within myself, and I wanted to prove to myself and I wanted to prove to my family that I could still do what they were doing. I don't know. It was just something in my brain that said, just give it a try. You've got really nothing to lose at this point. I mean, and then the minute you start to see some results, I mean, honestly, a minute longer is huge. If you can walk a minute longer, that was huge for me, because then I just felt like, wow, I really can do this. And it was long. It took me, over 2 years to get to where I am, but I really did put in the work, walking extra than what the walking program had me doing. I mean, it just started to consume me. Like I said, I walk to Walmart to pick up a few groceries now. I mean, I walk as much as I can. If I go to the store and I park away. It's even just those little things, I walk on my lunch break. I walk on my 15-minute breaks. I just do that because I'm so afraid for that pain to come back, to be honest with you. That's what keeps me going. You don't forget that pain.
You definitely don't.
No, it hurts so bad where it just brings you to tears. So that's why I keep walking.
That's incredible. And it's actually encouraging, right? That your doctor said, even if you do start getting the pain back, we'll just go back through at least 3 months
Yep.
and see if we can move things forward. But you're kicking the can further and further down the road. And no matter what, you're building these durable vessels to help you sustain your legs for life. People don't realize that, I think it's less than 11% of people with PAD ever end up in an advanced stage where walking doesn't work. So I think that's encouraging that most people, this is a powerful, powerful medicine. Just walking.
Just walking.
So thank you so much for sharing your story, Ginger. And thank you, Heinz, for also chiming in. We do have the Great Circulation Challenge, the Great Circulation Challenge.org for those of you watching online. It's a great start. We're just asking people to take that one step. And then maybe by the end of the month, you'll be taking 1,000 steps. Even if you can barely walk from your bed to the bathroom without, bending over with a leg cramp. Maybe by the end, you'll be able to walk to the bathroom without a cramp, and to the kitchen, and maybe to the living room, maybe even to the mailbox. It's just as Ginger said, it is step by step. But join the Great Circulation Challenge.org. It's at no cost. We're going to walk the 60,000 miles. Can you guys believe we have 60,000 miles of vessels along the human superhighway of the body, between the arteries, the veins, the capillaries, all of the above. And every step of the way, we're going to hit these milestones. I think we have 39 milestones we're going to hit along the way to learn more about the heart and the brain, and even the subclavian artery in your arm to the aorta, clear down to your toes and all the way back up again. So join the Great Circulation Challenge. I think, Heinz, I think I saw in there just the other day that you do have the Rockies. Your team Rockies, I think, is in there.
I don't
Maybe
see it, but if you say it's out there, I don't see it.
I just saw it the other day, so people can join your team in the Rockies. I don't know. Ginger, what do you think? Should we do a Team Utah?
Well, we could try, or I'll join the Team Rockies.
Oh, that's a good idea. Heinz, I don't think you'll be opposed to that, adding an extra person, making Utah.
It was the Rocky Mountain Walkers. So, yeah, you're in the Rockies also. So,
Why not? So let's join forces and let's compete against the PAD supportgroup.org. It's ours. Would love for you guys to post in the group and tell everyone to join your team, compete against us, get the most steps. We'll be able to see everyone's progress. It'll be really fun. We're starting September 1st. That's the Great Circulation Challenge.org. We're really excited about it, and hopefully we'll hear some great success stories such as yours, Ginger, and yours, Heinz, by the end of September. But thanks everyone for joining us. While you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to our channel. And if you do need help, always give our hotline a call at 1-833-PAD-LEGS.